For the first time in 55 years, the Bengals won a game while being held to under 150 offensive yards. And that's thanks a lot to their defense, which really stood up in this game and limited the big plays. And that's why they're number 10 in this week's best matchups for defenses for fantasy football. This week, they're facing off against the Jaguars, who did have a good game week 1 against the Panthers. But hey, that's the Panthers. Travis Etienne had some huge plays. I think the Bengals, they did a great job of limiting those against the Browns. They can limit those against the Jaguars. And Trevor Lawrence, we know that he struggled with interceptions. So if the Bengals can build a lead in this game and force the Jaguars to focus on passing, that's going to be a great opportunity for this Bengals defensive line, which does have some good players like Trey Hendrickson, to get true Trevor Lawrence, cause some fumbles, cause some sacks, maybe an interception. They really capitalized on some deflected balls in week 1. Jerry Jeudy, I know, popped one up. I'm not sure if he did the other one as well, but both those interceptions, not Joe Flacco's fault, but the Bengals took advantage. So the Bengals are our number 10 matchup this week. Our number 9 defense is my Pittsburgh Steelers. And I thought they had a good matchup week 1 against the Jets, where they struggled. They ran the ball really well. The Jets did. Justin Fields and Breece Hall looked solid. But this week, I love their matchup against the Seahawks. I'm going to jump over to Sam Darnold. Here we go. And we're going to look at his passing game this game. So game log, we're going to look over here. He had 150 pass yards. Terrible. He had 23 pass attempts, only 16 completions. This team just could not move the ball, and that was against the 49ers. They're a solid defense, but the Seahawks at home, Sam Darnold, he's just not as good. He just doesn't look good outside of Minnesota. So I think the Steelers have a real opportunity to take full advantage. And the Steelers defense did adjust. They did do a little bit better in the second half than the first half. They will continue to make adjustments. And I think facing the Seahawks team is the perfect opportunity to get right, especially as the home opener for the Steelers. It's going to be a great matchup this week. And I think the Steelers, number 9, solid matchup and a good start for fantasy football. Number 8 is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Amazing week 1 against the Falcons. I know they didn't have the best fantasy points in this game, but they were amazing against the run. Bijan and Tyler Algier, both around 2.5 yards per carry. They absolutely shut down the run game. Now, the Falcons were able to score through the air, but this week they're facing the Texans, who struggled mightily in week 1 against the Rams, one of the defenses we recommended last week. They're going to struggle again this week against the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers, they've got that run defense, which means that the Houston Texans are going to have to pass. And their offensive line is terrible. They were only able to score 9 points, I believe 9 points in their week 1 matchup. Let's look at CJ Stroud. You can see he scored 9.7 fantasy points. Just an absolutely awful game. Pass yards under 200, 7 pass attempts, 19 completions. It was just an absolute mess for the Houston Texans. So I absolutely love the Buccaneers this week. Number 7 is the Chargers defense, who looked amazing week 1 against the Chiefs. They absolutely dominated that game, shut down the run game, and this week they're facing the Raiders. The Raiders absolutely need Ashton Jeanty to get going. He struggled in week 1 against the Patriots in a game where they had a little bit of a lead towards the end of the game. They couldn't get anything going, and that's going to be even tougher against the Chargers. And the Chargers as well, they scored a lot of points against a tough Chiefs defense. So they're going to be putting the Raiders in trouble here, where the Raiders are going to have to pass. Number 7 is the Chargers, who were dominant week 1 against the Chiefs. I know they did lose Xavier Worthy. I know they don't have Rashee Rice. So I'm not saying the Chiefs were 100%, but they crushed Pacheco and Hunt in the run game. And Ashton Jeanty this week, it's going to be tough running. I'm concerned. I've got Ashton Jeanty in one league. I think if you're in a smaller league, you may even sit Ashton Jeanty this week against the Chargers, because he struggled so much against the Patriots, and this Chargers defense is even better against the run. And if the Raiders can't run, that's their identity. With Pete Carroll, that's who they want to play. They want to run the football. And the Chargers shutting that down, forcing Geno Smith to pass the entire game, that can lead to sacks, fumbles, interceptions, maybe a pick 6. It's possible for the Chargers in this game. So they are a top-tier option, and I think almost a must-add off the waiver wire if they are there, because of how dominant they look to be against the run game, plus how good their offense looks as well, taking clock out of the game, scoring lots of touchdowns, putting tons of pressure on the opposing offenses. Number 6 is the Patriots defense. And you probably aren't surprised to see them on this list, because this week they're facing the Dolphins, who were absolutely horrendous week 1. They struggled with interceptions. They struggled with fumbles. They struggled with turnovers the entire game. Tua did not look good. Nobody looks to be on the same page for this Miami Dolphins offense. And the Patriots looked pretty good. They did well against Ashton Jeanty. We just talked about him a little bit in this week's matchup against the Chargers. And the Patriots, they're going to be trying to shut down Devon Achane. I just don't think the Dolphins are going to be able to run the ball. I still do like Achane because of his receiving work. You can try to start Tyreek Hill. 8 points kind of seems like his floor. But the Patriots defense this week is still a solid start. Their number one goal is keep everything in front of them. And when they keep everything in front of them, it will be very difficult for Miami to drive down the field because Tua, he just doesn't seem like he's got it. He just does not seem like he's going to be the quality quarterback the Dolphins need. The turnovers are killing them, and that's the perfect opportunity for the Patriots to take over. And the Patriots did have some nice plays in their week 1 game, so really excited to see that. They should do a little bit better on their offense as well, taking some of the pressure off the defense, making the Patriots a great ad for fantasy football this week. Number 5 was one of the worst defenses, actually the worst defense last week, and it's the Baltimore Ravens. Of course, they're facing the Bills. That's a really unfair matchup. This week, they get to face the Lions, who struggled against the Packers. Now, I love the Packers defense. You got to add them immediately if they are available. If somebody drops the Packers, pick them up because they looked so awesome. But Detroit, they couldn't run the ball at all. David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, they had under 3 yards per carry apiece. They were both pretty terrible for fantasy football. Gibbs had 10 receptions, I believe, set an NFL record for the least yardage with 10 receptions. I think he had 31 receiving yards. So absolutely terrible game from the Lions. They don't have Ben Johnson. They don't have Frank Ragnow. The Baltimore Ravens are most likely going to get a lead in this game, and Jared Goff simply cannot. If we look back to the Detroit Lions' success, they dominate from ahead. When they are ahead, they can run, they can pass, they can do anything they want. When they get behind, they struggle. When Jared Goff has to put the entire team on his back, they struggle. Last year, that didn't happen much, but when he did, he struggled. So I believe that's going to happen again this week. Absolutely brutal start to the season for the Lions. I think they get crushed this game. I think the Ravens bounce back. The Ravens are angry. The defense is ready to make a statement. And without Frank Ragnow and without Ben Johnson, the Detroit, they look vulnerable. And I think the Ravens are a solid start this week. They're facing a Detroit team that I think is a lot easier than the Bills team. Number 4, we've got the Dallas Cowboys, who honestly, week 1, they were not good in the first half. But in the second half, they were pretty solid. They were shutting down Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley had under 2 yards per carry in the second half. Now, I know they got time to rest. That definitely helped the defenses on both sides of the ball. But the Dallas Cowboys defense was solid in the second half. And this week, they're facing the Giants. The Giants looked completely out of sorts week 1. Russell Wilson, people are already talking about him getting benched. It's a mess for the Giants. I like Cam Scatterbo running people over. They've got Malik Nabers, who's obviously an amazing player. But the Cowboys matchup this week is solid. I mean, that's the matchup you want to be facing, a discombobulated Cowboys defense, because the Commanders didn't even look that good. They still dominated this game. And the Cowboys, they're probably on waivers after facing the Eagles week 1. So I think they are a solid ad, especially if one of your matchups, one of the defenses you started last week just has a terrible matchup. Maybe they're facing the Bills, maybe the Ravens. This is definitely a good one in a team that's probably available in many leagues since they started off the season against the Eagles. Number 3, we've got the San Francisco 49ers, who did a great job week 1 against Seattle, but now the 49ers have another opportunity against one of the weaker quarterbacks facing the Saints. Now, one thing to watch out for is that Mac Jones may be the starting quarterback for the 49ers. It looks like George Kittle may miss this game as well. They have so many injuries, which does make this game a little bit more even. But if you got a 49ers offensive player like Christian McCaffrey, Ricky Pearsall, they're still an amazing start because with all the injuries, they have to get a lot of volume. And I still like this defense as well. They're going to be able to take advantage of the Saints team. They got to shut down Alvin Kamara, but they're going to be used to that. They have Christian McCaffrey. They face in practice every single day. They're going to be ready to try to shut down Alvin Kamara. Can he make it all the way down to the end zone? He's going to have great reception work. I like Juwan Johnson as well for the Saints. But overall, I still love the 49ers defense. You always want to be facing these lesser experienced quarterbacks. And let's see how they did week 1. I mean, they scored 9 fantasy points. They only allowed 13 points. They only allowed 230 yards. I think the Saints will find it really tough to move the ball against this defense, especially with Mac Jones. They're going to be taking care of the football, running lots of clock, which could make the game really quick here. So I love the 49ers defense this week. That's why we're in the 3rd position. But the next one, and especially our number 1 defense, might be available on waivers. So make sure you check those out as well. Number 2 is the Arizona Cardinals facing the Panthers. That's an amazing matchup. The Panthers struggled in week 1. They do have a lot of new players. They had Jalen Coker, who then went to IR. So they do have some injuries. They have some new players. It's going to be a tough year for the Panthers. Now, I like the Panthers. I'm excited to see what their future. I think they're really building something. But the Cardinals get another sweet matchup here in week 1. I mean, the Cardinals scored 5 points against the Saints. That's not bad. They had 1 sack, only 13 points allowed. They did allow quite a bit of yards, and that's what really hurt them. Overall, they didn't really force any turnovers, But, that can happen week to week. So I think the Cardinals are a solid ad if they are still available in your league to play against the Panthers this week. But now let's get to our number one defense. If they're available on waiver wire, you have to get them, because I started them in a lot of my leagues last week. We had them as a highly ranked defense in the Walter Picks app. You have to add them because they're going to be good season long. Number one, and make sure you hit that subscribe, guys, because we are making this video every week, is the Rams. They scored 11 points. They had 3 sacks. That's exactly what we talked about last week. If you go back to our video last week, this is exactly what we said would happen. The Rams defense is going to tee off. They're going to go after the Houston Texans because they can't run the ball. Their O-line is terrible. And this week, they get to face off against the Tennessee Titans, who, man, they struggled week 1 against the Broncos. Now, I like Cam Ward. I've got a Cam Ward jersey in my room here. I live in Nashville, so I'm super pumped about Cam Ward. But what brutal matchups to start the season. They have to face Pat Surtain and the Broncos, maybe the best defense in the league. And then this week, they have to face the Rams, who are majorly underrated. I mean, we look at what they did here. Yards allowed, 265, not bad. Points allowed, 9, 3 sacks. They had an interception. They had a fumble. Absolutely elite from the Rams in week 1. And this week, they face a rookie quarterback who's coming off a terrible matchup in week 1. You got to grab the Rams off waiver. They're an amazing start.